G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. It's at the end of the day, it's about 5:30, and I've had a Ford Territory 2005 model pushed into the workshop. It's a no-start situation whatsoever. So what's wrong with it? Let's check it out together. The customer states that he was driving down the road, turned the car off, and then went in somewhere, came back out, and absolutely nothing. So how do we start this process of finding out what's actually wrong with it? Let's start with the basics. Now the customer's replaced this battery a while ago. As you can see, state of health 100%, state of charge 98%. It's a good battery. So what's next? I've also done some quick tests of tension of terminals and leads, etc. and also making sure that the earth that goes onto the engine is in good condition. What else can we check? Well, let's start by pulling off here, and if we have a look, our starter relay is that bloke right there. So it's this fella right there. That's our starter one, I believe. Let's double check our work. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we pull that one out, and we lose it. No, it's down there somewhere, I'll grab it. So right or wrong, I'm going to do a test with a test light. There you go. I'm going to put this fella here onto the negative side of my battery, and one of these terminals should have a negative on it. Now, if you have a look at the configuration, you can see that we have on our relay here, there we go, we have two terminals that face opposite one another, and one facing that way, and then we've got a blade in the totally opposite direction, haven't we? There you go, power at all times, very good. Alright, now that I've done that, I can put this on the positive side of my battery, hook him up there. Now I'm looking for an earth on one of these fellas here, one of these side fellas. So now I'm looking for an earth on one of these fellas here. It's got to be an earth, one of them at least. Alright, so is it that one? Nope. Is it that one? Nope. Well, there might be a bit of a trick here. We might have to have the ignition turned on. So I'll just turn the ignition on now, and we'll see if that brings around an earth or not. Okay, look at that. Can you see that? You saw that, didn't you? Hey, it's turned green. All right, so we know that that's an earth. So we've got a positive on this one here. We've got a negative on that side. Now we need to find out if we have the control side of things working. Then I'll get this fella back on my negative side of the battery. And this fella here, when I turn on my ignition or go to the start position, should turn red. Let's try that. So I'm going to the start position now. Look at that, eh? Alright, so we know that this system, or the control side of things of the relay, is okay. Is the relay faulty? Well, we can do a quick bypass on that to find out if that's true or not. Technically speaking, a relay is nothing more than an electromagnetic switch. So we can bypass this fella and ignore it altogether. What will that tell us? Well, that'll tell us if the relay's had it, or if the load that it's going to is faulty, in this case the starter motor. In this case, all I'm going to do is use a fused piece of wire with some terminals on the end, very similar to my relay. Then I'm going to bypass this fella here across to this fella here. That should actually start the engine. Let's see what it does. Now remember that this is fused in case something turns pear-shaped. And I've got nada, okay? So I know that most likely my relay's okay, or the fault is that way toward the starter motor. I'm now on the battery cable that goes to the starter motor with a voltmeter, just to make sure I've got some juice coming through. Let's have a look at what the multimeter says. And we've got 12.61, so I'm happy that juice is getting to the battery. And we need to now see if the control wire is working, and to see if that's got voltage when I turn the ignition on. Of course, one of the problems with trying to test something when you're a one-man show, I can't turn on the ignition and at the same time look at a multimeter down here, so I'm going to use something different. Follow me. I'm going to use, there we go, I'm going to use a test light instead, or just a globe. It's a load. When I turn on the ignition, that fella should glow. So let's have a look at it. We should have a globe come on about now. Check that out, eh? now. Okay, so we know that it's within the starter motor that the fault is. We don't hear any clicking or anything like that whatsoever, so I'd say the solenoid is at fault. It might be in a pull-in wire or something like that, I would imagine. If you did hear a click in, you would check that wire on the other side to see if it's got power going across that solenoid. But in this case, I'm going to recommend to the customer that the starter gets replaced. He's had an alternator, a battery, and it's got a lot of kilometres on it. So I think overall it would be a good idea for the starter to be replaced rather than trying to repair it. There's no hiding the fact that this starter motor is buried, okay? It is somewhere down that direction, okay? You can't get to it from below, all of it, I don't believe. So there's one bolt on the top that I'm going to get to and one from below. I'm going to have to disconnect the battery, of course. I'm not sure if this has radio codes on them or not, or if it's past that. I'll have to check. But to me, what I'm going to do, right or wrong, take off this fella here, take off this fella here, just to give me some access down that way. Put in a long extension bar to get to that top starter motor bolt. Won't be easy though, I don't think. So I've just gone ahead and removed this intake ducting for starters. I don't know if I need to access it through here or if I can get to it from below, but it is tucked away pretty well. So as you can see, the starter motor's right there. We've got a bolt just here, and there's one right up the top. That's the one I might have to get from the front. And of course, just it's a matter of undoing that nut that goes onto the main battery cable. And of course, that terminal's got to come off as well. So yeah, make sure you disconnect the battery, guys. Don't play with it while it's live. You may end up doing some damage. But yeah, undo that fella, pull that off, undo that one, and you might have to get someone to help you with an extension bar or something from the front to get to that top one. I'll see how I go. As I said, it's a bit of a tight fit there. I'm going to use my extension bar. It's actually quite a long extension bar, together with another extension bar on top of it. So we're going to shove him down in that spot. I can get that one down there and then just add my other extension bar on top of it, and hopefully I can get onto that nut. Bit of a pain, but what else can you do? So hopefully that will be long enough. Once I put that fella on there, should be long enough to get onto the nut and then undo it from the front here. Whew, that was hard. So I've put an extension bar or a series of extension bars in underneath the inlet manifold to get to the top of the starter motor bolt. What a pain in the bot. But I actually managed to do it by myself, but yeah, bit of a howdy doody to get it on there. So you just keep feeding them in through here, then you get up that end from underneath and then reach over the top and try and get it on there. At the moment it's sitting on there, so I hope it doesn't fall off when I try and undo it. But yeah, what a pain, guys, what a pain. The bottom one, fairly easy to get to, not too hard. Top one, yeah, not happy Jan. Believe it or not, I've got the top bolt out, but I'm going to leave the socket there together with the bolt on the end, because if I pull it all out, hey, it's going to be a nightmare to put back on. So I'm just going to push this back with my hand back at the starter motor and just gently push the bolt out of the hole. Just push it to one side, so hopefully everything will be there. Then later on, when I put the new starter on, I can just put it in the hole and tighten it up. Yes, it is grotty work, guys. I'm just getting the bottom bolt off there, and I started looking for my 13mm socket and realised, hang on you idiot, you've still got it on the big long bar going onto the top one. I've just got a little quarter drive with a 13mm on there, and that's fine. There's enough tension on that to hold it in place, no problems. It wasn't overly hard to undo, so I'm happy to use that. So I'll get that out, and the next task is to make sure that I can actually get it out of the vehicle itself. Well, I've finally got the thing out. Had to do a bit of a unscrew corkscrew thing through here. So you can see up the top I've still got my bar attached. I'm going to leave that there. But to get it out, I had to unscrew it, basically turn it around here, turn it around there, turned it around here, got it through this hole here, then once again turned it around and it finally came out. What a pain in the butt. How do we test a starter motor? Well, firstly we need a power source. I've just got a random battery that I have in the workshop as a jumper battery. Next we hook it up to our starter motor. To do that we have positive here, so that's coming straight from the battery. An earth clamp goes here, and all we have to do is, this is our pull-in and our hold-in coil go in here, which is inside the solenoid. we simply apply power to that. We can just grab a screwdriver and short between this point and that point. That's what I'm going to do. Let's move it out of the road a touch. Can you hear how dry the starter is? Now, unfortunately, before I filmed this, it didn't work at all. So I must have knocked it and got the brushes working or something along those lines to create an earth point, but before it worked not at all. See? Did you see that? Didn't work then. So I'll be replacing this for the customer. It's well past its abuse by date, so it's getting a new starter. See, it only works occasionally. So yes, new starter for this particular vehicle. I've got myself another starter motor now, and I've double checked my work. I've made sure the distance between the bolt holes is the same between the two, across this flange or this rebated area between the two, and also the pinion teeth count. In this particular case there's 10 teeth, so I just put a white texture mark on it, wind it around and count each individual one. So I'm pretty sure that it's the right one. In this case I'm using the JLEC brand. The part number is 70-1008, but just keep in mind that there was 3 different ones that fitted this vehicle, so make sure that you take your old one down to your parts dealer to get the correct one. There you go, the starter motor's now back in place. It wasn't quite as bad as pulling it out, but nevertheless no space in there whatsoever. As I said before, I had to almost screw it in past all these pipes and a frame and etc, etc. Almost had to turn the starter motor around and around to wind the frame of it through all these bits and pieces, but at least it's in there. We can see if it works now. I'm glad too that I left the extension bar in place with the bolt attached to the socket. Just made it a hell of a lot easier trying to put the new one back in. So yep, all done. In case you're curious, it took me this many extension bars to reach that bolt at the back of the starter motor. That's a long distance. It's got to go all the way back there. So yes, bit of a task, but it's done now. Let's make sure it starts. Of course, we've got to reconnect our battery, and don't forget to do the customer's clock and radio codes if necessary. Right, let's give that a whirl. Okay, for a Ford that sounded alright. Now you might want to try it half a dozen times just to make sure that everything's okay. That sounds pretty consistent. Of course, one last thing, don't forget that intake ducting that we took off originally. It gets put back into place with the 2 screws here and here. After taking it for a quick road test and making sure that it starts okay once again, I'm happy that I've completed the repair successfully. I hope you guys got something out of... as the fly went past. I hope you guys got something from this video today, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. So guys, until next time, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I will catch you later.